Hey y'all, what's good? The guru of Squad Double Zero is here, the assassin like no other. And a couple weeks ago, actually a few weeks ago probably now, I was talking with Anime Super Dude and was in the comment section or comments or I forget when it was. But anyways, regardless, we're having a conversation and it got on some things about philosophy. And then he asked me an excellent question. He asked me my thoughts about immortality, right? And yo, shout out to Super Dude. Check him out if you like his videos. You already know what's up. Anyways, I'm like, you know what? I've actually sort of kind of meant to do a video on this. My thoughts on immortality, because it's a very interesting concept, a very interesting discussion. Very interesting psychologically and philosophically how it impacts us on our thoughts on immortality, on our thoughts on mortality, on our thoughts of our place in the world, in the universe, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, whether you believe in a soul, spirit, and all that kind of jazz. Okay, whether you believe we're just material, whether you believe we're just particles, waves, molecules, what your metaphysics are, what your views of reality are. This impacts a lot of things. It impacts decision making. It impacts your value systems. Okay. And once again, you know, this is a little less talk. And for those who don't know, I keep it real. Go in with that. I mean, I just keep it real. Keep 1,000 with y'all all the times. But this is even more no sugarcoat, no BS. Just straight up. Okay. First, let's begin with immorality. The very sense, the very notion, I shall say, the very notion that human beings, sentient beings, can possibly conceive of something like immortality brings forth a boatload of philosophical questions. It promotes several ideologies. Okay. Now, I shall not go into the entirety of this discussion because this could be easily a 3-4 hour discussion. But what is key to the points is three things. Number one, the concept of an afterlife. The concept of an afterlife. The fact that humans can conceive of anything means something's possible. Humans cannot conceive of what they deem to be impossible. It's outside of our rationale. For example, flight. Humans can conceive of flight because, well, we have evidence of birds and whatnot. But we have evidence that we can move. The fact that we can jump and we can levitate, or we can stay in the air for a large amount of time. The fact that we throw objects and they hang, flying. Okay. The fact that we think something's beyond the planet. Now, we do see evidence of this, but at the same time, there is other things, you know, states of consciousness. Okay, there are other dream states in different realms of reality, dimensional barriers, mind you, that we think we have possibly crossed, where some may hallucinate, where some may see perceiving things differently. So a lot of elements come into play. Sorry, y'all, have to deal with this right now. But anyways, making videos, y'all already know. Back to the point. The fact that the fact that we conceive of things like an afterlife, like different realms of reality, delves into this, it ties into this immortality, because it's like, wait, on spot, this is number two, our consideration of death. Because the whole afterlife, death, immortality, all death, dang man, death, immortality, all that is linked together. It all correlates. Okay? We clearly see death. We witness death. You are born. Termination of life is death. That's part of the mortal process. Doesn't matter where you go. Now, there has been some instances where it's said through legends, mythology, as well as in, for example, scripture, where some people didn't experience death. There have been people resuscitated, resurrected, and whatever. So death is a very interesting concept in itself, but I shall not get into that at this time. Thirdly, this whole concept of immortality, how it's viewed in of itself. Because you have some that believe, okay, existing always in this realm. You have immortality on another realm. And you have those who don't view that immortality as possible. I would happen to believe in the second one, by the way, existing on another realm, whether it be on the more spiritual soul side. Okay, existence, and it brings into question, of course, the states of being and whatever. And these are a lot of questions that a lot of concepts that I'm skimming over and introducing, more of an overview in this discussion, because like I said, this is a very deep, very, I wouldn't say tedious inquiry, but what it can do is it's a very detailed analysis, which I do not feel like spending the time upon, as well as most people don't have the conceptual knowledge, the prerequisites to even understand the full totality of this subject. No offense to people just don't have. When you're ignorant, you're ignorant. That is what it is. Now, like I said, the very fact that we conceive of an afterlife, of an immortality, okay, why? Why is it important for humans to even beg the question? Because, first of all, how do we extend our lives? Is life, and here goes the question, what is life? Okay, something to consider. I shall not go on to that because that's a whole separate discussion. But think about this. What is life and what is the value of life? Why should things live longer? What's the point? What's the purpose of living longer as opposed to even living shorter? Because more harm can be done while you live longer, or to you while you live longer, but at the same time more good. So there's a lot of concepts to consider. There's a lot of pros and cons you must contemplate. The longer you live, the more resources you take up. That's something to consider. But at the same time, the more you can produce, potentially. Something to consider as well. The longer you live, the more problems you can, and more issues, drama that you can create, possibly, or at least forge. The longer you live, the more you can solve, possibly. There's a lot of potential. Okay. And with immortality, it comes the pain of death. Pain, most of us don't know death. Death may come without pain, but it's for those who are left behind is where the pain comes in. It's the loss, the loss of chances at making memories. It's the loss of time and investment resources that you place into a person or an animal or whatever. The concept of living immortally is you can enjoy that person's company forever. But then the immortality it's a double-edged sword, because certain individuals are allowed to harm even longer. You understand? So, there's the pain factor, and there's a whole discussion on pain. Does it really exist or not? You have to conceive of this. And as far as an afterlife goes, an afterlife takes things to a next level. Because first of all, with an afterlife, now I won't get into all the forms of an afterlife, but just the very fact that we conceive of an afterlife almost is like a logical verification for me that there is some form of afterlife. Because you could say, well, people are hoping that there's something more. Hoping that there is something more. If you will go from a pure physical standpoint, you have the laws of thermodynamics. And amongst those, you have the first two. The law of conservation of masses and dealing with entropy. Okay. First law of thermodynamics it used to be, I learned it as matter, but it is energy is neither created nor destroyed. Second one is energy, matter. Two different things, but how I learned matter, but energy. Energy, all things go to pretty much to entropy or uselessness. Now, when you conceive of that, some people conceive of an afterlife after this. After we die, our energy goes into it. Interesting. Even from a physical standpoint, the whole circle of life aspect. So even if you don't believe in a soul or spirit, you have to at least take into consideration that the body perpetuates the continuation of life. Now, if you want to take it more of a towards a spiritual thing, it makes sense. Because what really is life? Are we simply robotic characters? Now, I will doubt that even most atheists will simply say that we're just simply automatons, okay? That we're simply just these material beings? I don't, for lack of a better term, material things that just go according to firings off in the synapses of the brain. the fact of emotions, the fact of perception, various perceptions, the fact of who even wires us. How do we come out with individualistic properties about each of us? Even more complex than a snowflake. That our minds are even more complex than the most complex computer. How is that even possible? Why? And what makes humans, specifically Homo sapiens that we know of, seemingly the most sentient of beings, at least on this planet? Is questions. People say the size of the brain. That's not necessarily true, because there's other creatures with the larger size gray matter, and they're not more sentient than we are. They don't create as much technology. They don't communicate seemingly more complicated than we do. They don't propose, philosophize as we do. Now, we don't know fully what they're capable of thought, but it is clear that humans operate at a different plane, a different realm of reality. Okay? Not saying we're superior, that we just operate differently. So it's something to consider. Okay? Immortality. What does it really mean? Is it possible? I don't believe it's possible in the mortal realm because of the laws of thermodynamics, because of the laws of physics, and because simple human nature, okay, and in our interactions with reality, as well as things of disease and whatnot. Now, there is something called the singularity that I was introduced, namely, I was in discussion, something I was looking at, but namely, discussion with a friend in college, right? Back a couple years ago. Well, it was my second semester of college, and he was talking about the singularity, and it's kind of on this iRobot situation where machines, robots, are able to gain sentience and take over the world. And my thought process, and there's so many things in which I could confront on that, which I did. This was like at least 30-minute discussion, and I was just refuting him. It wasn't even a whole thing. I don't even think I didn't even promote any ideas toward the matter. I was just refuting it. But think about it like this. And oh yeah, these will be able to live forever. First of all, the body, they will break down. That's just what happens in this dimension, on this planet. Materials just simply break down. The bodies break down. The older you get, the more you notice. They build up and they break down. That's just how it works. You know, evolution, part of evolution, for lack of a better word, is devolution. It's the breakdown. Okay? When you conceive of this, how is it immortal though? Because the more it breaks down, the more it corrodes. How does it last forever? Yeah, you can add to it, but does that make it immortal? What, building another machine and transferring knowledge, that makes it immortal? That doesn't make it immortal. People don't understand. Immortality means living forever. And first and foremost, Dinglebags is the question. The fact that you had an origin already negates the possibility of immortality. Because immortality goes with eternality. Okay? The eternal. Omnipresence is different. But the eternal. Okay? Even the gods in a lot of mythology, they're called immortal. They're not truly immortal. They more or less live a long time because they're able to die. How are you immortal if you're capable of death? Something to consider. Like I said, this is a very, very complex issue that I more or less is introducing. Okay. Immortality for me, like I said, I don't think it's possible in this physical realm. We have no evidence, no logical reason to believe it to be possible in this mortal realm. I think it's just completely asinine to believe humans, first and foremost, are able to even approach such a thing. It's asinine. We have very little control over what we can do in this physical realm of existence. Okay? Now, as far as in the spiritual realm, yes, I definitely see it. Now, my discussion about afterlife, that's like I said, that's a huge topic of discussion that I shall not get into at this time. But maybe one day. But I would more or less try to like a debate on these things, a serious discussion at the very least with various viewpoints on that matter. Um, but yes, if there is immortality, it is at a spiritual level. It is after this body expires, because we reside temporarily, okay, in this body. Whether you believe in the old soul kind of concept, where you believe in reincarnation, which I don't find to be, whether it be from a scientific or philosophical perspective, to remain consistent, because it arises from what arises from reincarnation arises a whole slew of questions, a plethora of questions which are problematic in of itself to the very ideology and philosophies which follow from reincarnation. Or whether you believe in, created beings and then living on for the rest of eternity, which that's one of the positions that I hold, because I believe in a creator, an almighty creator, for a lot of reasons. Whether you just see, energy and whatnot, and you see the universe, and the question is the universe eternal? You're saying, matter is neither created nor destroyed, but you're going with you're already presupposing. I'm not saying necessarily assuming, but presupposing. You have to make the acceptance on faith now, until proven otherwise. It's on faith that the universe is eternal. Now, if you're willing to say that there is an origin of the universe, then you have to willing to say what force or person or being, I should say, who or what created, originated, produced said universe. And is this even the only universe? Because that begs another question. Now, from my position, there could clearly be multiple universes. Okay, multi-universal thing. And then you look over the omniverse. I mean, there's very likely the other forms of life. In other, wouldn't necessarily say parallel universes, I would say parallel dimensions. For all we know, there's unicorns, dragons, centaurs, and you name it. Okay. At one point, I do believe dragons in some form or another. Not how we modernly conceive it. With certain reptiles, yeah, I can believe they were hunted to existence. Same thing with unicorns and other such beings. Not all, but many of them. Were hunted to it being. Minotaurs in certain form, I can conceive. And just different things. But that's no other discussion. But regardless, how you can conceive of reality. And I'm not just talking about this physical plane. I'm talking about reality as a whole. Talking about the mental, consciousness. Because some people say consciousness lives on, even though that in of itself is debatable about does consciousness end at death or not. Death of this physical body. So consciousness is a whole nother possibility besides the energy, besides the soul concept. Some even conceive of consciousness and the soul as being linked. Do what you do. But, like I said, this was an introduction to the topic. Super Dude wanted me to do the video, and I was more than happy to do it. The reason this came out now is because sometimes I'd be lazy, and other videos, I wouldn't say had more precedence, but other videos, some of them required less thought, some of them were more pressing on my mind at the time, and this and that. But Unexpected Wonder, like, comment, subscribe, tell me your thoughts on immortality. Do you believe it's possible? Do you not believe? Please present possible reasons as to why. And until next time, y'all, have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Yeah, buddy.